Terrorism by itself is a topic, and corruption itself is by topic. And I have to finish by 8 o'clock, I think. The terms terrorism and corruption have to be defined. First of all, let me say that there can be no terrorism without corruption in society. And there can be no corruption which does not lead to terrorism. Terrorists come with Indian passports. How is that possible? Terrorists play on the stock market of India. How is this possible? It's possible because the politicians created a derivative in the financial world called the participatory note. No other country in the world has participatory notes, but we have it. Time doesn't permit me to explain what it is and how it operates, but a full-fledged committee headed by Tarapura Wala, that committee had recommended that this should be abolished. But so far we have not succeeded. So far we have not succeeded with my own government, but give me a little more time. I will get it done before the term of this government is over. So what is terrorism? It is threatened or deployed violence on a society to overawe the civilian population and make the government to do or not to do something which is not in the public interest. For instance, terrorists hijacked Indian Airlines plane and took it to Kandahar. And there they did not ask for the jewels and the cash with the passengers. They only said, we'll start killing one by one unless you release 3 people in Indian jails. 3 of the most dreaded terrorists, including people who founded terrorist organizations which have killed large numbers. The relatives of the passengers then came into the started demonstrating before the Prime Minister's house. And a whole climate was created that we should not sacrifice the 159 passengers. There were ways of rescuing those passengers, but there was a risk. But the society was not ready to take that risk because we had become overawed. And ultimately the government of India released 3 of the most dreaded terrorists, including Muhammad Azhar, who founded the Jaish-e-Mohammed. 159 passengers were saved, but since then these 3 organizations have killed 3,000 Indian citizens. So this is the way the terrorism operates. It operates to overawe the citizen, and then you start wanting to make accommodation with the terrorists. And the day you start accommodating terrorists, there's no end. See what's happening in Pakistan. There is an elected government there, but can they take even one decision The Prime Minister of Pakistan was invited to the swearing-in ceremony of Mr. Narendra Modi and his cabinet, and he could not answer yes because he had to ask the military whether he can go, the intelligence wing called the ISI whether he could go, and finally the clerics or the mullahs as they're called, whether he can go. And that's why he gave his acceptance to come last of all. Today in Pakistan, by constantly accommodating terrorists, there is no civil society worth the name there. The government of Nawaz Sharif does not extend beyond the residence of Mr. Nawaz Sharif. Decisions are taken there by organizations which are sympathetic to the terrorists. The army is sympathetic, the ISI is sympathetic, and of course the mullahs run the show. So therefore, you have to understand that terrorism is actually violence, but the violence is to change your frame of mind, to make you ready to surrender or to capitulate. A lot of people tell me terrorism is because of poverty. What rubbish? Osama bin Laden was a billionaire. He was not a poor man. Most of the terrorists have bank accounts in several countries. Prabhakaran, who led the LTT, had $5 billion in several banks, because he was not only doing terrorist activity, he was also doing drug trafficking, gun running, corrupting society through giving drugs and cocaine and things like that, heroin, weakening society in the process and making money on that. Terrorists are today the most well-financed people. ISIS of of Iraq, I shouldn't even say Iraq, they are now caliphate, which means they are a government of all the Muslims in the world, whether the Muslims agree to be a citizen of that caliphate or not. But they are declared openly. All Muslims of the world are under me. That is what their caliph says. So therefore now they in Iraq caught hold of all the oil fields. Having caught hold of the oil fields, they are selling oil. Now they have made so much money that you cannot get prisoners back by even paying ransom. Recently they have issued a threat to the Saudi Arabian sheikhs that we are now coming after you. But what is not published in the newspapers is, we are coming after you unless you pay us $100 billion. With that money, they will corrupt whichever society they come across. By the way, the ISIS says one thing which you must know. India is an incomplete chapter of Islamic history. It's there in their writings. What does it mean to say incomplete chapter of Islamic history? And it was explained to me that Islam went and conquered Persia. Persia was occupied by the Zoroastrians, was rather the country of the Zoroastrians, whom we now call as Parsis in our country. And they conquered it, and then in 15 years they converted every citizen of Persia, which is now called Iran, as converted them as Muslims. Those who refused were killed. Some ran away to India, and they are prospering here. So 15 years, Iran became 100% Muslim. Then they went to Babylon and Mesopotamia, which is today called Iraq. In 17 years, they converted Iraq into a 100% Muslim country. They converted Egypt into another great civilization, the Pharaoh civilization. They converted them to 100% Muslim in 21 years. And yet they, after conquering vast parts of India, after 800 years, we are still 80% Hindu. That is what bothers them. And one of the reasons we are still 80% Hindu is Karnataka, the Vijayanagara Empire. Of course, Shivaji also, the Gujarati Prajapatis and the Andhra Chalukyas, they all kept fighting. India is a story of continuous fighting. Not only the Muslims were able to convert a country after conquering it within 15 to 25 years, the British who conquered, the Christians who conquered Europe, they converted in 50 years. So we had 800 years rule of the Muslim or the Islam and 200 years rule of Christians through the British. And you are 80% Hindu. This is what they call the incomplete chapter of Islamic history. And now they are saying they want to complete it. We better get ready. Don't say we don't want war. You will be gifted with the war. The war will be imposed on you. The day IS comes to the border of Wagah, Indo-Pakistan border, the war with ISIS in India is inevitable. It may not look today from newspapers and so on, but it's a serious threat because ISIS is an organization which is not physically capturing people, but it is capturing them mentally too. People are being infected. You can see today people are saying in Kashmir that this state cannot have a Hindu chief minister because we are a Muslim majority state. Well, when Antule was chief minister of Maharashtra, that time they didn't object, saying it's a majority Hindu state. Or Ghaffur was the chief minister of Bihar, they did not object. But they are objecting today that Kashmir is a Muslim majority state and therefore we won't allow a chief minister who is a Hindu. And I think we should take up the challenge and after this election have a Hindu chief minister in Kashmir. Why? Because Kashmir was originally 100% Hindu. Vaishno Devi is still there. The Durga temple set up by Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara, is there in the Shankaracharya hill. All our holy Hindu traditions are in Kashmir. I tell the Kashmiris also that don't say this state belongs to you, it belongs to me because my ancestor was Rishi Kashyapa and he is the one who created Kashmir in the first place. So this can be taken to a ridiculous extent. But when our country was ready to fight, nobody was able to succeed here. The Caliph Umar conquered most parts of Europe, right up to the borders of France. He had conquered Spain. Then he turned around and said, I am going to India. They had a different word for India. Khorasan. Khorasan is the name they had for India. Said, I'm going to Khorasan to conquer it. When he came to the borders of Rajasthan, two kingdoms, Said, I'm going to Khorasan to conquer it. When he came to the borders of Rajasthan, two kingdoms within India combined. The Prajapati dynasty in Gujarat and the Chalukyas, by then they were also in Maharashtra. They combined and they administered a defeat to Umar's army so terribly. It was the defeat that the Caliphate collapsed for 700 years. If the ISIS wants to come again, we are once again a transformed nation. We will see that they don't come back for 7,000 years. Why 700 years? So I am saying to you that the lesson to be learnt is that you must have a mindset to fight. I have been lecturing, speaking for years in classrooms, in students, in public meetings, saying that the most important thing for a human being is his mindset. Don't be proud that we are 1.2 billion people, a huge population. Without the mindset of that large number, this huge population is useless. There will be 1,000 goats at one place. One tiger will come. Who's got the numbers? The goats. But who will run? It will be the goats. One tiger can drive these goats into panic, because the goats are not mentally built to see how to surround the tiger and kill him by kicking him. Similarly, strength is not enough. You've got nuclear weapons, you've got battleships, you've got this, you've got a million-strong army. No, not enough unless you have a mindset. And I give the example in my lectures, and I've given it before here in Mangalore, that in a circus, in a cage, there will be 5 well-fed lions. One ringmaster will come in, lock the door, and he will be a thin, wiry ringmaster. He will order the lions, climb up. All these well-fed lions will climb up on the bench. Then he'll say, open your mouth. They'll all open their mouth. And he'll put his head in each one of them. And the audience will all cheer. Question is, why even one of those lions does not bite this man's head off, tear him to pieces? It has the strength, it is very well fed. Because from a pup stage, a lion has been brought up to obey. And he knows how to obey. He doesn't know his own strength. And so he obeys the ringmaster. And I gave this at that time when I spoke to Mangalore, when people asked me why Manmohan Singh sitting in the Prime Minister's chair could not fix this Sonia Gandhi. The power of the Prime Ministership is so strong. I said, his name is Singh, but he's a circus singer. He doesn't know anything except how to behave, to obey. We were also brainwashed after the failure of the first war of independence in 1857, that at the peak of the British presence, we had only 44,000 British soldiers in India. And we were at that time 400 million people. Why did we tolerate them? An English author wrote a book when Robert Clive won the Battle of Plassey, and he came to Murshidabad in a victory celebration, came walking. 5 lakh people stood on either side of the road and threw rose petals to welcome him. So an English author writes, his name is Collins, that I was thinking that suppose these 5 lakh Indians, instead of throwing rose petals, had picked up a stone and thrown at Robert Clive, what would have happened? And he concludes, the day the Indian stands up, the best thing the British can do is pack up his bags and leave India and not try to control India. That happened in 1946 when the Navy revolted. Subhash Bose's trial, they came to the conclusion that now we can't stay. And this was confirmed by Prime Minister Attlee later on in 1948 in an address to the bar of Calcutta High Court, that it is not Gandhi. Yes, Gandhi was there, he was a responsible man, we could hand him the power. But the real reason we made the decision was that we now felt India can't be controlled. The mindset had started to change, so better get out before they swallow us. I am saying therefore today, we have very serious situation on terrorism. And any time anything can happen. The Bombay 26/11, the full story has not been written. But there was collaboration from within India for these terrorists. There was a lot of bravery too. One of the brave acts was the cook was a Christian. And when the terrorists came to the kitchen of Taj and wanted the key to the air conditioner duct, they wanted to put a grenade into that so that it will go and these fumes will go through the air conditioner duct and the whole palace, the whole Taj palace would then be engulfed in gas. And everybody would have died. But he refused to give the key and he was shot dead. He gave his life so that others could live. Now look at that dastardly act. We nearly had people going into our parliament in December 2001. And had they succeeded, but for 4 watch and ward staff, unarmed watch and ward, who blocked them, who closed the doors, they could not get in. And they were therefore shot dead by these people. And then some of them were caught. A trial was held. It went all the way to Supreme Court. And they were sentenced to death. And then the human rights groups came up, said, no, 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 they should not be hanged. Afzal Guru should not be hanged. There were people who gave petition for Kasab also. Kasab, by the way, original prayer was that he is a juvenile. So he should not be given any punishment except a reformatory thing. Fortunately, he couldn't produce the school certificate. So he was hanged. But the man who brutalized that young girl in that rape episode of 2012 will be soon coming out free because he claimed he was a juvenile. All these bleeding hearts wanted to protect him. Young person. If you are 17 years, 11 months, 29 days, no law can touch you. If you are 18 years and 1 hour, you can be hanged. Fortunately, I fought the matter in the Supreme Court to change the law. By then our government came, and the first action our government took is to lower for heinous crimes the age to 16 years. You say your children, but what about the rights of those who killed, who brutalized, who raped? They too have rights. If you can rape, if you can kill, you cannot be called as a child. You have to be treated as an adult. But in our country we find this. Terrorists, you have human rights groups arguing for them. And you found in Tamil Nadu the most ridiculous situation, where the assembly passed a resolution that those who killed Rajiv Gandhi should be let free. Fortunately, that state has no power in the constitution on matters of such kind, and therefore the central government said nothing doing. There are people who say that LTTE is fighting for the rights of the poor people. They are a terrorist organization. We don't care who they are fighting for. But if you use terror, you have to have a mindset to finish them. So how does one develop this mindset? First, let's be clear what is our identity. Who are we? You ask an American, their textbooks say the American is the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant Christian who speaks English. Professor Samuel Huntington of Harvard, he is the propounder of this, and the whole United States has accepted it. When I asked Professor Huntington, what about those Buddhists who are Koreans? What about those Indians who are Hindus? What about Muslims? He said they are citizens of the United States, but the identity of India, of the United States, is white Anglo-Saxon, Christian, English-speaking Protestants. So they are very clear in their mind that this is our identity and this is what we have to protect. In Britain, the present Prime Minister went public and said, Britain is a Christian nation. That's our identity. And when it was pointed out to him that there are Sikhs and Muslims and Hindus and Jews and so many others, he said, yes, they are our dear citizen brothers, but the identity of Britain is Christian. What the British did to India was exactly to destroy this identity concept. They created this Aryan, Dravidian. So the Dravidians say killing Rajiv Gandhi is okay because Rajiv Gandhi was an Aryan. How did you prove that Rajiv Gandhi is an Aryan? Today, modern science through the DNA states that we all have the same DNA. North and south, east and west. Somebody said, what about the skin color of North Indians being lighter than South Indians? That the researchers said has nothing to do with race. That's got to do with pigmentation in your skin. If you are closer to the equator, the sun rays hit you directly, and therefore the skin gets darker. In the north, the sun doesn't hit you so directly. In fact, in America, there was a singer called Michael Jackson, who was a black African. He went to the doctor and he said that I heard that if you take out my pigmentation, I'll become a white man. He said, you will. He said, take it out. He took it out. And Michael Jackson looked like a white man. So this has been fed into our brain. And there was a new movement that came up, the Dravidian movement. Karunanidhi started saying that Rama was an Aryan. Ravan was a Dravidian king. You didn't know that Ravan was born in the outskirts of Delhi in a place called Noida. in a village called Basarak. You can go there, even today there will be a board here, there. That we, in Hindi, that we don't celebrate Diwali because we are children of Ravan. Ravan went to Mansarovar, prayed there to Lord Shiva. Shiva gave him a boon, and then he said, which can I conquer? And he found that his cousin Guber had developed Sri Lanka, so he came to Sri Lanka and became king. Karunanidhi for a long time thought this is a Dravidian king. Finally, with my interaction, he gave up the idea. But he is still very sore about Lord Rama. And he is more sore with me because I prevented him from breaking Rama Setu. The new government has now declared that we will not touch Rama Setu and make it into a national ancient monument. When I was arguing in Supreme Court, he said, who is Swamy to call this Ram Setu? Was Ram an engineer? Which engineering college he got a degree from? But then Rama took revenge. Next day he fell ill. And he was admitted to hospital. And the hospital's name was Ramachandra Medical Hospital. All this was fed into your brain that we are different, we are not one nation, the British put us together. This weakens us. We must have a mindset of being the Indian. And I can tell you that the DNA studies show in the Journal of Genetics that all Indians have the same DNA. I proved it in the case of Raj Thackeray also, that his DNA and the UP taxi driver's DNA is the same. Hindus and Muslims also have the same DNA. The mullahs don't like my saying this, because it means that their ancestors are Hindus. Otherwise, how can they have the same DNA as us? And I say to the Muslim, if you openly admit that your ancestors are Hindus, then we become part of the same family. You can have your own upasana paddhati, that is, you can worship, you can pray to Muhammad. We will not stop, because Hindus have a tradition. We have never persecuted any religious minorities. When the Parsis came, we looked after them. When the Jews came, we looked after them. When the Syrian Christians came, we looked after them. Even the Arab trader Muslims came to Kerala, we looked after them and got them married to our families. And they came to be called Mapillai, which the Englishmen called as Mopla. We also believe that all religions lead to God. Not necessarily with the same efficiency and speed. You can go from Mangalore to Mangalore by road, and you can also fly to Bangalore. We think that ours is the most efficient religion in reaching you to God. But we also accept that all religions lead to God. Is there any other religion in the world today which has not come out of the Hinduism, like Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism? A religion founded elsewhere, whether it's Islam or whether it's Christianity, which says that all religions lead to God. Only Hindu religion says that. So therefore there is no issue. We think that this is a country with a Hindu tradition. They say no, but Islam has also contributed, Christianity has also contributed. I say it's true. But as Ganga flows, many rivers join it, but its name remains to the end as Ganga and nothing else. So I am saying today, if you want to fight terrorism, you have to develop this oneness that we are the same. Brahmins and scheduled castes also have the same DNA. Given equal opportunity to scheduled caste, he will be as good as anybody else. Dr. Ambedkar was scheduled caste. He went to his teacher was a Brahmin. He told him, with the name Bhimrao Mahar, you will never get anywhere. So you take my name, which was Ambedkar. So he became Bhimrao Ambedkar. He was so good that he got a scholarship to Columbia University in economics. He went and wrote a PhD there, which is one of the best PhDs of that time on monetary economics. Then he went to London and got the law degree. Then he came to India, and then the Constituent Assembly was the chairman of the drafting committee and helped pass the Constitution of India. And congressmen always called him Bhimrao. But they called Jawaharlal Nehru Pandit. Jawaharlal Nehru went to Cambridge and failed there. All members of the Nehru family have failed. Some of them falsely claimed to have passed. How can you call Jawaharlal Nehru Pandit and Ambedkar Bhimrao? In fact, you should call Bhimrao Ambedkar as Pandit and Jawaharlal Nehru as Jawaharlal only. But we have, these prejudices have been pinned into our mind, which divides us. For years they were winning elections by dividing Hindus and uniting Muslims and other minorities. This is the first time we united the Hindus and divided the Muslims. We couldn't unite all the Hindus, because the Hindus are 80%, we united only 32%. Then the Shias voted for us, the Bohras voted for us, the Khojas voted for us, the Ahmadiyas voted for us. Even amongst the Sunnis, the Barelvi Sunnis voted for us. Only the Wahhabi Sunni didn't vote for us. And with 37%, we got absolute majority. Tomorrow, more Hindus unite, and we reach 44%, we'll get 2/3 majority. So now they're saying, oh, this is Hindu consolidation. When you are consolidating the minorities, you didn't feel it was wrong. Now I'm consolidating the majorities, how can you take umbrage at it? This unity is essential for survival. There is a civilization threat today in the terrorists that you are facing. We have to look for allies now, because you've got to fight it. The Americans want us to help them in the ISIS, fight against the ISIS. Americans are very practical people. I've lived amongst them for many, many years, first as a student and then as a professor. They are only give and take people. You want to take something, then you give something. 120 crores, 120 lakh crores, not 120 crores, 120 lakh crores. And if I auction coal blocks, how much will I get? 11 lakh crores. If I auction 3G spectrum instead of 2G, all of you know, I've already explained to all of you what is 1G, 2G, 3G. So I'm saying now we are going to go from 2G to 3G to 4G, even 5G is being researched now. And each of these auctions will take place every year. You will have no shortage of resources. Coal blocks, oil fields. Even at some stage we may have to auction thorium, because you've got 60% of the world's thorium. You will be flooded with money. Money is not the issue in India. It is the focus on preparing our people to believe that merit will be rewarded in this country and you will strive for merit. We need new innovations. We are importing oil from Arabia. Instead of that, we should now make our cars fitted with hydrogen fuel cells. Japan is doing it from next year. Slowly they are moving to hydrogen fuel cells. Should generate electricity with thorium. Should link all the rivers, because there are many rivers which just go into the ocean. Godavari is 67% is going into the ocean. Krishna is going 79% into the ocean. 46 rivers of Kerala, 98% going into the Arabian Sea. So there are, of course, rivers like Kaveri, which has no water, or Vaigai, which has no water. So you must build a water grid, and that will generate employment, improve agriculture on the way. So there, India has got enormous potential. What it needs is the population self-confident, determined to do it, and we can once again be the world power we were. Thank you.